you write music?
No, we're a cover band.
Oh.
It's not.
I'll show you a video. They're really good.
I write lyrics, and I just was on the way here. I was like, I need to attract someone who can write a song to go
I
with the
have written
lyrics.
music, and I've composed music. I can do it.
Okay.
But with what I do, I have 5 other people that have kids and jobs and love music. So we just we have a couple bars in downtown Vancouver that will pay us $250 to give us a 3-hour time on a Friday, Saturday night, like once a month. And we'll just play
I love covers. I'm
30,
obsessed
40
with
songs.
covers.
But see, our audience is drunk people in bars.
Yeah.
So they don't want to hear your crappy original music.
Yeah.
They want to hear Sweet Home Alabama
and
Sweet Child of Mine, and they want to hear songs that they can dance to.
They did this weird rock. I feel like that was like, I feel like you were offended when I said that it was a rockabilly cover of like Sweet Child of Mine, but it was.
It took me by surprise.
That's really what it comes off as.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was because you were playing at a key lower, right?
It was a key lower.
And then, I don't feel like you were impressed enough that I knew. And
no, that's impressive.
And the singer was, she's very talented. It just wasn't
She's really good.
It just wasn't your standard. So we are here with Jessa Reed.
Hello.
Hi, Jessa. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
I'm here with my co-host, Brady Smith. I'm Amanda Arnold, and we are on the stand-up diet. Jessa has a very successful podcast right now called Mormon and the Meth Head. Yes, that's great. And you just did my dream, honestly. I have to admit, you know, when you're like happy for somebody, but still like, I want to do that. She was on This Is Not Happening.
I was.
An amazing story, too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Can you tell us about that a little bit? Like, was that fun or?
This Is Not Happening was, I think a lot of comedians want to do a late night set. A lot of the normal trajectory of comedy was never something that I was interested in because I wanted to tell dark stories about my life. And so I didn't work my way up in the local club because that's not what, the hosts don't get up and talk about shooting meth into their neck, you know? And so I just always kind of had to make my own way. And I knew that like a late night set for me, which most comics, that's on the list for them of what they want to accomplish. They would have to pencil fuck that so hard in order for me to do it that it wouldn't even sound like me by the time it was done. And then if I did attract any fans from that, they would be really disturbed when they finally did see me live.
You'd be the Metallica of comics.
Right. So when This Is Not Happening, I found out was a thing, I think in like the 3rd season. Someone told me about it and I binged it all in like one night and was like, this is my, like, if I could get on this show, I would find my audience. They would find me, like, this is where I belong. This is my home. But I'm living in Delaware. Yeah. I'm a housewife in Delaware. And so it was about 2 years maybe after that, so maybe it was the 2nd season when I found out about it, that Ari Shaffir had put something on Facebook the night after my first storytelling show. Because my comedy was story-ish, but it wasn't. And so I did my first storytelling show, and I told the story of getting married into a religious family when I was 16. And so,
which I would like to come back to.
Yeah. Put a pin in that.
We're definitely coming back to that.
I got tagged repeatedly in Ari Shaffir saying we want women and people of color to send in a tape. And I never record any of my stand-up because it's like I'll bomb.
I'm bad about it, too.
I'll bomb.
I'm horrible about it.
If I know it's
too.
being recorded, I choke. And so, not so much now, but so I had one story recorded, which was a story of my first home birth. And so I sent that and then was like, that is probably not the demographic for Comedy Central. And so the next day I sent the meth, there was a meth bit,
Yeah.
And then the day after that, I wrote back when I realized it's a bit, not a story, and that I should have just left it with the first story and was like, hey, me again. Sorry. This is
Good
the
for you.
The 3rd email in 3 days. And
Yeah.
was like, just do the first one. I thought the second one was something else, but okay, bye. Now you know what it's like to have a conversation with me. And so I didn't hear from them again, which is not surprising. And I was rounding out my 2 years before I quit comedy. I was like, I have to give comedy everything for 2 years because I only half-assed did it most of my life. I have to give it my all for 2 years, and I'll go to real estate school if I haven't made something happen. And people are like, you have to move to LA or New York. And I'm like, my kids are used to a certain level of life. Like, we have a nice life here. I'm not rendering them into poverty so that I can go do open mics in LA or New York. I will find a way to get a TV credit from Delaware or I'll quit. And so 2 weeks before I was supposed to quit, I was already signing up for real estate school.
It's amazing.
I got the first email from This Is Not Happening that said, yeah, no, these are garbage, but we have a feeling you have something that would work.
Tell us more.
And I was like, you want a drug story? Like, I know you want a drug. Okay, I'll write a drug story. So they said, so keep in touch for next year. So they hadn't even filmed that year yet. So they hadn't even filmed 2016 yet. And I called my friends that night and was like, the guys who put on the storytelling show, and said, please put together another storytelling show. I need to, and I wrote out the story of me drinking. The climax of the meth pit story is the story of me in my sister's bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I wrote it, and I had to write the whole story of my meth addiction, and I wrote the first version of it, and I went and did it at a storytelling show in front of 3 people, and I emailed it to the producer or to the showrunner, and he was like, this is like 10 days later, 2 weeks later. And he was like, yeah, this is for next year. So you have plenty of time. And I was like, all right. And he's like, I mean, I have notes if you want notes, but you have a long time.
Yeah, I would like those notes now, please.
And I was like, all right. And he talked to me on the phone for an hour and a half. And I realized he's the nicest guy in the world. I realized that this was someone who had seen me bomb at a comedy festival. So I was pretending like it wasn't me. Like I wasn't the person who bombed in front of him. And finally he was like, and you have all these kids. This is fascinating. And I was like, oh God, you remember me? And he's like, yeah, I met you in Montana. And I was like, I was just going to pretend like that wasn't me. And he said, you just seem like someone who didn't know how to showcase. Because that was at the beginning of my 2 years. The only time I've ever gotten into a festival, I get rejected by every festival.
Me too.
Big Sky Festival in 2014.
Just got rejected again this year.
Yeah, it's I never get into anything. And so, and I was way out of my league. And I bombed hard. Like, you ever get halfway through a set and just be like, I should just go. I almost turned around and walked out. It was soul crushing. And at the end of that, I had to redeem myself from that bomb. And the only way I knew how to redeem myself was like, I have to come back to this festival, and they're never bringing me back as a comedian. So I harassed them for the rest of the thing until they brought me back as staff.
I was just gonna say, you're staff of Big Sky.
Yeah, no, I'm the coordinator now. Going into my 4th year. They hadn't had a coordinator do more than 1 year in a row before
That's awesome.
Me. So anyway, but that's how I got back and got to do another set. So, but he had seen me bomb at that and still was giving me a shot. And so then 2 weeks after that, I sent him another video, and he's like, okay, I guess we're just going to do this. Like, I'm not going to stop. I sent him video after video after video after video. He would give me notes every time. I was trying to say so true to the actual story, and sometimes that just doesn't work.
Yep.
Everything that's like, holy shit, is that true, is true.
Yeah.
But there are some, at the end, it just, I couldn't tie it up with the actual events.
What year was it when you end up at your sister's house at the end?
That is in 2004.
So what years were you, so for our listeners, Jessa and I are both from Portland, Oregon. We both have, there's chances that we have met probably back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I did my mom passed away when I was 15, and from 15 to 22, I did a lot of drugs. Yeah. I did meth. I talked about on stage that I smoked crack on accident once because I thought it was meth. And then I was indignant. I was like,
that is the opposite of, yeah.
I was like, I don't smoke crack. Like, what is this? Like, I guess that's white trash privilege, but I am not smoking crack cocaine if it's not made out of starter fluid. But yeah, I did drugs in Southeast Portland because I went to my sister's house in Southeast Portland.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Southeast Portland.
Were you like in the flats or?
Yeah, Foster Powell, Johnson Creek, like all around that area.
Oh yeah, at the very minimum, we know the same people.
I'm sure. Absolutely. We'll have to when we can say names.
To draw out the diagram
from '99 to 2002, 2003. So.
Oh yeah, those were my years.
That was when I was doing it. So. It's very interesting to think that our paths could have crossed at some point, and then we both somehow got our shit together and became comics.
Yeah. There is a Portland comic who's a on and off again tweaker, or was.
Oh, yeah.
And he said that when he tells people he's a comedian, people are like, do you know Jessa? And then he's like, yeah, I've met her before. And they're like, dude, Jessa was the tweakiest. Like, nobody thought I was ever going to get clean. They really thought I was going to be a bag lady. Like, when I got clean and then, like, got my shit together, people were like, what? Because I was out. I loved it. I never wanted to quit. I got accidentally addicted at a gig when I was already a comedian when I was 22. And then the second I tried it, I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for my entire life. I felt like...
How old were you the first time you did it?
22.
See, I was 18 in a trailer on 82nd and Flavel with a lady that I worked with at Burlington Coat Factory, mad at a guy. And she was like, she'd never done acid. She's like, I'll try acid if you try this. Who does that? And she was
nice trade,
she
lady.
was like 30 too. I had a kid, and I did meth in her trailer with her, and went home. And the guy I was mad at, we ended up hanging out that night. And I was like, dude, I did something called probe dope. And it was like Portland Rose. Sorry, like I know this is a lot for.
No, sometimes you feel like you're hardcore, and then you meet people who are hardcore, and you're like, oh shit.
I was back that night.
I smoked cigarettes a couple times. I did some beer.
For our listeners, this is a new podcast. Brady's a doctor. He's a dentist, and he's very
close to a doctor. I'm working on it.
Yeah, like almost a doctor.
I'm really close.
I hate that. Actually, I don't like that stigmatism because I was in the veterinary care forever, and I heard people all the time be like, well, you're not a real doctor. I'm like, I've seen them cut limbs off things.
Actually, veterinarians it's really hard to get into vet school.
Yeah.
Vet school is really hard to get into.
Really?
Really hard. Yeah. Harder than dental school.
Like 3 of my best.
For sure.
Yeah, because they have to do.
Well, there's less of them. There's less veterinarian schools.
Right.
There's a billion dental schools. So
there's a billion species. They have to know stuff about all these different species.
There are many animals.
Drug indications with different animals.
Yeah.
Also, you have to know how to do dentistry and.
I'm sorry to hijack
surgery.
the conversation, but I'm just like, it's, my silence is just me.
I felt bad like we were excluding you, but it's just weird that we grew up kind of in the same area.
What about the first time you did meth?
Yeah, talk about the
first time I did meth.
Well, tonight, Brady, is the first time you're going to do meth.
These donuts here we have in front of us are...
do you have any light bulbs at the house?
One of them's a meth donut. There's just one of them. I don't know which one.
I love meth donuts.
Yeah.
They're like pot brownies.
It's a surprise. It's a surprise.
They're hard to finish.
Yeah. So take us back to the beginning, because you have a very interesting the beginning, because as passionate as you were about the meth when you discovered meth, you were also kind of a born-again Christian at one point. You got way into that at some point.
So are you originally from Portland?
Okay, so parents meet in California, and dad's from Delaware, mom's from California. They move to Delaware so my dad can do an apprenticeship. They're whacked out on drugs. My mom leaves. The marriage is bad. My mom leaves. She moves to Portland. She joins like the Air National Guard or something. I'm raised by my dad and 5 dudes. And then around the age of 5 or 6, I'm like, why didn't I get a mom? I don't think I fully understood that I had a mom. My dad brings me out to Portland to live with my mom. I'm in a trailer park off of... Is that Killingsworth, right where 82nd bottoms out?
Down by Cully.
That gnarly ass. Yeah, I was in there.
They're not even like mobile homes, they're trailers.
No,
like that you pull with your car.
We put a kid in the dryer and turned it on. I was there for 24 hours before I smoked my first cigarette, and I was like sheltered, like dad. Like I was very well taken care of.
And you were
in
like
this
6?
House. 5 or 6. I guess he came and visited for my 6th birthday, so I was 5. Instantly corrupted. Smoked my first cigarette. Learned what sex was. 6. Just trashy kids. It was called humping. We stick our finger between our other fingers as like symbolism of it. My mom was she was actively using, partying a lot, having a lot of sex. I used to charge kids candy to watch her fuck through. She didn't have a doorknob. And just childhood innocence gone
Quite the
overnight.
racket.
Yeah. I was. She got a doorknob and it ruined my whole business. But
and you're making it rain, Laffy Taffy.
Just I had the lick.
How can you not be a fat kid? It's fine.
I remember ants in the cereal. I remember putting milk in the cereal and watching the ants. Because I lived with a certain level of comfort with my dad, because my dad, although he was an alcoholic and an addict, he identifies as that. He had his shit very much together.
Call it like a maintenance alcoholic, a working man's alcoholic.
Yeah, he was high functioning until the end, and so my mom was just high. She was. I didn't feel wanted. So this is kind of the beginning of this.
Was she a meth addict or heroin or whatever was around? She was a
crank addict. I think at this point in my life, she just was doing a lot of stuff, partying
whatever
a lot,
was around.
Had a lot of friends. I became friends with the gross kids in the trailer park, and then she became friends with their moms, and then they were all partying. She soon met my dad, my stepdad. We moved to a nicer neighborhood with him, where I meet my best friend, Crystal. This is ironic. And
She'd be your friend again.
to get molested by her dad for 3 years. So he's a pastor.
And you're how old?
I'm 6 to 9. He's a pastor, and this is where I developed this idea that I am from the wrong side of the tracks. There is something wrong with me, and that the religious people are the people that have it right. And that was a lot of programming that he used to keep me quiet. Mm-hmm. He used a lot of when he was holding me on top of him and stuff, and I would be trying to get up. There was a lot of your hair smells bad. Does your mom even take care of you? Why are you so
Shaming.
Why are you making me do this to you? Yeah. And so I think this is the point where I start to develop this idea that it's me. There's something wrong with me, and I became. There's some connection between me and indoctrinated people there's a pattern in my life where I'm super attracted to indoctrinated people, although this is the opposite of what I was way overexposed to everything that you're not supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but there was, as I started to come out of the age where you believe in in magic and these kind of things, there was something in me that just felt like this isn't all there is to life. There is it felt very Truman Show to me, even though I've never seen that. Reality felt like it's a lot more than what everyone's saying. Why is everyone saying this is it? There's a curtain somewhere. I got to find this curtain. I then, I hated authority. I didn't like being told what to do. I stayed with my mom for as long as I could, but that got really dark. There were other addicts living in the house. I did eventually tell on the guy who was molesting me. We moved.
Was he ever prosecuted?
He wasn't. I had a teacher I told on him when I was 8. We watched an assembly or a movie in a class about sexual abuse or whatever, and then I was like, oh, that's what's happening, because to that point I just thought I am bad at accepting his affection. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, he's doing this to me. And so I went to my teacher and told her what he was doing, and then she just started taking notes for a fucking year. This lady just had me come give her the weekly digest of my molestation and never did anything.
Wonder was
so I don't
she
know if
getting
she
up?
was a creep or he was a pastor and I was a drug, because it was very strategic on his part, because I didn't feel safe with my mom. I didn't feel close to her. I didn't feel like I could go tell her. So I think I was definitely the prime candidate for something like this, other than deep down inside of me, there's just always been this confidence that you're not going to get to treat me like shit for very long.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was trying to tell on him. I tried. And so I told her for a year, and then I still ended up I said something to his daughter. And then it all blows up. So we move, because my mom sells drugs. You're not going to prosecute a pastor, and So she was and I was 9, and she was like, I can't do anything because he knows I sell drugs. And I was 9 and was like, I understand. That makes
Seems
sense.
legit.
Yeah, I get it. I was that old already.
Yeah.
So then we moved to don't get sad, by the way. It's okay. It's a lot.
Yeah. No.
So we're giving Brady all kinds of information tonight.
I do think that this led to me circling back to Christianity. I moved back to my dad's house, moved back to my mom's house, drugs and alcohol about 15 years old, start having sex with adult men about 15 years old. Sex was obviously a big mess for me. Also, I think I watched Poison Ivy too many times. So
we're not too far from age.
Yeah. And then when I was 16, or 15, I got in trouble. I kept running away from home. So the cops picked me up, CPS picked me up, and took me out of my mom's custody, put me in my grandma's custody. She was very involved in church. How long? You remember New Beginnings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is New Beginnings.
This is great.
So I never say the name out loud, but whatever. So she was very involved in that church. When that church had this hip youth group, right?
Is that national? Because I feel like I had a New Beginnings in Spokane, Washington, where I grew up in Spokane.
No, it's a popular church name.
Not the same thing.
Yeah, no.
This was they were trying to make Christianity cool and bring in the community and revive Christianity.
They did have a poppin' ass youth group, and they're down in another state now. But it was the pastor was extremely charismatic, and
do you feel like that was a positive environment? Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it had a good impact on my life in a lot of ways. I was frying on acid all day because I had to live with my grandma until like New Beginnings was in my stomping grounds, like in my neighborhood. So when my grandma would bring me, I would usually just come in the front door, go out the back when she wasn't looking, go hang out with my friends, and then come back and act like I was in youth group.
This is when I started eating acid. Yeah, about 15.
And so, but one night I didn't feel like going back home with her, and I went with these kids, got slain in the spirit, and then was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm instantly obsessed with Jesus because I feel like I saw the wiring. You know, I feel like I found the curtain. This is the curtain. This is magic. I know there's magic, so cool. And then I fell in love with the street preacher's son. The first time I met him, he was tall and hilarious. Like, so he just made fun of me for like, and at this point I'm obsessed with Jesus. I've won so many people to Jesus. I just sit on a bus to go get my GED and just like, I would come into youth group because no one liked me because I was weird. And so I would just come into youth group with my own posse of people. I won more souls than,
you were your own Jesus.
Yeah.
You were
I was
bringing
just
them.
like, I'll make all my own friends. And so I was really good at it. And I walked by the pastor's kid one day.
Jessa Christ superstar.
It was like,
there you go.
Soon to become Jezebel, and was like, why are you guys so bad at serving God? And then him and his brother just made fun of me for like 45 straight minutes. I went home that night and told my mom, I'm going to marry Dustin
That's
Reed.
the one for me.
Wow. I'm going to marry him, and I did. I married him like 8 months later. So, but I ended up having more of an influence, like we backslid together because they were trying to keep us apart, you know, and then I end up pregnant. And then we get saved again.
You were pregnant at 17?
16, I was pregnant. I had her at 17. We get married.
Still in Portland.
At the hitching post in Coeur d'Alene because I was too young to get married in Oregon, even with parent consent. And I guess this is my first exposure to what shame does to a person. So I married someone that, just never... He had never had sex with anyone before me. 19?
Okay.
He's a few years older than me. And, he spent his teenage years thinking that jerking off was a sin, and you know what I mean? So he already had a lot of like a shame spiral going pretty good.
Mm.
And then also this, in Christianity, which I guess Aaron and I talk about a lot, it's not as prevalent in Mormonism. But in this brand of Christianity, there was a lot of pressure on the woman to be hot and sexy
pop star
and keep
Christian.
His interest and whatever. So like I could fuck good, but I was 250 pounds after our daughter was born, and he started cheating on me, and
your mental health probably isn't super solid, like probably a little depressed maybe.
Yeah, no, I suffer from extreme postpartum depression and didn't know it. And I also just didn't bond with my daughter correctly because I had a lot of record, like there are a lot of broken pieces I needed to figure out. And so
I love how casually you say that, just to interject.
Yeah.
You're like, I didn't bond with because you were a child.
Yeah.
Because some weird shit happened in a trailer.
You had some disadvantages.
You know, you had some holdbacks. I wouldn't. Hopefully, you still don't feel too guilty about that.
No, but there was a lot of like me trying to like assimilate. Like, her hair always looked really nice. She was always dressed really well.
Mm-hmm.
So it made you feel terrible. I mean, just that kind of.
Yeah, I just was like, I don't love her.
Was his family? Oh, so he was the son of the pastor.
Not the main pastor, but one of them. Yeah.
So his family was all that brand as well.
And I love his family. His sister ended up taking my daughter while I was on drugs, adopted her and raised her for most of her life. And I like him.
You're still friends?
We barely talk. My husband that I just separated from raised my daughter once I got her back. That's her dad now. But it's like, it's hard for me to say, like, to make big sweeping statements. There are things like Christianity believes that women are supposed to submit to men. There were phases where I really kind of stepped into like gifts where I was really helping people and was told I had to stop because I was being uncovered because he was a jackass or whatever. I obviously I don't resonate with a ton of it. There was a ton of, as soon as I got away from that scene, I lost the weight because I wasn't obsessing over it, you know? And not that I haven't struggled with it again and again in my life, but usually you can connect the obsessing with it.
Oh, absolutely.
So he and I were great together, and he loved me very much, but he didn't know that he loved me very much because he couldn't get past this idea of what he thought his wife was going to be like. He thought his wife was going to be a petite version that was soft-spoken, brunette, thin, and into fashion, because I didn't give a fuck. I mean, and I was like, I'm so much more feminine now than I was then. His mom was like teaching me how to walk in high heels and shit, and I never did it again after I left that family. And we split with him believing that he wanted that, and then his next wife was that, and then when we were still friends, like secret friends, and he was like, she's so shallow, and I was like, what the fuck do you expect?
What did you think you were gonna get?
When your entire description of what you thought your wife was gonna be is exterior shallow bullshit, and then every wife since then, because there have been many, are just chunky funny blondes, and I was like, you're never gonna get
you got a type.
You already had it, dude. You already had it. You're never gonna get it.
Is he
back.
cute? No, I'm kidding.
He looks like if Aaron.
I wonder where that comes from. Like, I don't feel that way at all. But so when I grew up in high school in Spokane, the cool kids were the Christian kids, right? I found out in high school and like middle school that they don't accept me. Like I am not with that group. They shunned me and held me in as low regard as anybody else that they consider to be because Mormons believe in a different Jesus Christ. So we're blasphemers. That's the
Brady's Mormon, by the way. We haven't talked about that yet.
Right. So I never got to play with those kids. Those kids never included me. I got in some really big fights and it actually really upset me growing up. So
hold on, the Christian kids were the cool kids at your high school?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was all kinds of groups of kids, but in Spokane, Washington, yes. There was
interesting
big groups of Christian. They would like do like morning prayer around the flagpole, like, and they'd all hold hands on the prayer, and then there were like Bible study groups in the library, and I tried to join one, and they were like, you can't be here.
Yeah, no,
like,
we didn't.
And kids are buttholes anyways.
Yeah.
But then when I tried to join their group, and I hear stuff like this, and I'd be like, this is why people hate you. This is why people hate you. I don't know why you got to be like that.
Yeah.
And Mormon, we have our own things too that are quirky, and some people would say, I would say,
Which is the way you said it. I'm sorry.
Quirky.
It should go on I'm obsessed with Mormons.
Weird side note.
We're a different breed. I think we're a different breed, but most of the problems that people have with Christians, I share because I feel like there's some liberties being taken and that I don't believe are authoritative from a divinely instituted authority. But for some reason, I think with
Mormonism, you guys have this one umbrella. You know, that's the thing that's so interesting about Mormonism for me, because when I'm talking about Christianity, I'm talking about this one church that I went to, because it's all so autonomous and it's also different one from the next, where we tour around and usually end up partying with Exmos afterwards. And so, and I'm obsessed with Mormons, so I want to know everything about it. But it's so interesting because it's this one big collective consciousness. It's all trickling down from this.
We believe in a single authoritative source of information.
Yeah, and so you're all it's all uniform.
There's a trail where that comes from.
Yeah,
and so we know it can't be obstructed. So you can't. I can't wake up tomorrow and be like, I have been instructed by God to start my own branch.
Right. Yeah,
that we just know that's not what we believe. That's not how God works. So that doesn't happen.
Right.
But with Christianity, that's precisely what Christianity is.
Exactly.
It's sprouts of. I have an idea.
Yeah.
Here's my idea. Oh, that's stupid. Let me tell you my idea.
It's the multi-level marketing.
So
it absolutely is.
Yeah.
Of advertising.
And so you have these different things come up, and that's why you have these. I mean, you have 800 different denominations of Christianity.
Yeah.
All believing the same book. That
but
they all
completely
interpret different.
We love our Christian listeners.
And we definitely believe in the Bible too. But one thing that makes us different is that we would agree with people when people say the Bible certainly can't be sufficient, and we agree with that.
Yeah.
That the Bible evidence is that the 800 denominations of Christianity would tell you doesn't seem like the Bible is sufficient.
Yeah.
And Mormons agree with that. And we're one of the only ones that I know of that do, which gives us a little bit of a
I'm dying. I'm sorry.
A unique perspective, I think.
Yeah.
On stuff like that.
So if I remember correctly from Christianity, it was the fact that you had the Book of Mormon and that nothing can be added or taken from the Word of God. What scripture is that? Yeah.
Sure. So there's a scripture in Revelation that says you cannot, nothing can be added or taken away from this book.
Right.
And they consider the Book of Mormon.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Amanda is dying on air right now. So everyone knows.
I had a cold. I'm sorry.
She made it. She pulled through.
It all the way through. So long.
Yeah. So anyway, it's so interesting, and that when you have sort of that age, it just takes me back because I feel like all the kids that and a lot of them went off the deep end. I mean, a lot of them was very similar story. They were just Jesus freaks.
Yeah.
And then, see them on Facebook, and it's like, oh, you went through some stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't you?
That's same for.
You didn't stick to that trajectory.
Almost none of them are still Christian from.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have like PTSD from our time where I feel like I very fondly remember all of the different phases of my life. So most people who went through meth addiction left it traumatized because we saw some shit, but I left it like, did that take years off of me processing my childhood?
Because at its source, you're following a charismatic person, a pastor, a priest, somebody that you look up to, revere in some way, idolize maybe, but it's a charismatic human.
Absolutely.
That you're looking up to. We have a different perspective, and we certainly have charismatic humans. We have a lot that aren't charismatic though too.
That's the thing that's so interesting because there's J-Dubs too that I talk to.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't imagine the charisma was a big part of it for me. I can't imagine going to church and then having to listen to someone who's not charismatic. Like, I feel like I would just, sometimes. It sounds terrible.
Yeah.
The big, we had great music and there was all this emotion. And after a while, I could see the wiring under the board. And I'm like, oh, you stir up all this emotion with the music, and then he comes in with this charisma, and then next we're dumping money into a thing. I get the system now, which I was like, I don't understand how people can do this for decades on end.
Yeah.
But
money helps them.
Yeah.
I think that helps them.
I went to a Christian college.
The people dumping the money into the thing.
The money helps a lot.
Yeah.
You were born in Spokane, right, Brady?
No, I was born in Olympia, but Spokane was like elementary school, middle school, and high school.
Because I was born in Spokane, and my dad introduced me to his parents as Brady. And then my mom's like, ugh, I changed that.
You were almost a Brady? Your name was almost Brady?
I told you that when we first met. Yeah, my dad thought I was Brady Grace. And then my mom's like, while you were gone,
I think you did.
I decided to go with Amanda, and I'm named after Miss Kitty from Gunsmoke, who died of AIDS in the 80s. Oh. So nice. I thought the song Amazing Grace was Amanda Grace till I was 12 and had an argument with my friend's mom. And I was like, it's not Amazing Grace, it's Amanda Grace. I'm named after that. I was that kid. Even if I'd bullshit. I'd bullshit my way.
Man.
No.
A lot of,
What's the longest you've went without eating?
Probably a couple days.
Yeah.
I learned pretty early on that food, sleep, and copious amounts of water actually keep you higher longer.
Yep.
So I wasn't super unhealthy.
My understanding of meth, which is not good, is that it makes you don't want to eat.
Right.
It takes the place.
You can push through that. Because I was like, this is the best diet. Being a fat kid growing up.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't consistently a fat kid. I had fat phases just through my whole life. I'm in a fat phase right now. You just keep going through these phases. And when I lost all the weight the first time, I was like, this is the best diet ever. And then I quit doing it for about 6 or 7 months. Gained a bunch of, because it comes back so quick.
Yeah.
And then the second time I didn't lose much weight because I was like, I feel like shit when I don't eat. I'm going to force myself. I remember my friend coming over with a big bag of dope one night, and she was like, let's get high. And I was like, I was boiling water for Top Ramen, and I was like, hold on, I don't know when I'm going to eat again. I want to eat this first, and then we'll do drugs.
I just would get too far in the I needed the grounding of the food. I got down to 130 when I very first started shooting up, and then other than that, I was still 160 the entire time.
That's thin for me. It's 155, 160.
I'm supposed to be 150. I would look emaciated. I'm 175 right now.
So those not initiated into the how you do meth. Snorted?
It's usually the first way you do it.
Smoke it.
Smoke it.
Mm-hmm.
You can snort it. You can smoke, which is why you thought it was cocaine the first time you did it. Because you can snort it, you can smoke it.
Yep.
Is it a powder
put
that
it in your butt?
Well, it looks like
you can put it in your butt.
Yeah,
or in any.
That was actually one of my questions in my notebook.
You can eat it.
Any mucousy place in your body, you can put it. You wouldn't want to put it in your eye, but
yeah,
you could put it.
Meth is like if you held it long enough, you would get. I mean, meth is there's many ways to do it. Putting it in your butt, you get very, very high.
It looks like mucousy. It looks like
well, like alcohol. You get
crystals.
alcohol poisoning if people put alcohol in their butt and they don't realize that.
I think you can put any drug in your butt and get high because there's something like it's all open.
It's mucousy areas.
We'll have to check our fact checkers on that.
Yeah, because I remember when I was at an after hours club watching like people walk out just drying off one finger after sticking tabs of ecstasy in their butt. I'm like, you should wash your whole hand.
Yeah, it was all back there. That's gross. Yeah. I watched a guy stick. They called them grenades, and they'd just take a little piece of toilet paper, put meth in it, roll it up, and twist it, and it kind of looked like those things you'd throw on the ground. Those fire when you were kids. And I watched him stick it, and I was like 19, and I had seen some stuff. My parents, like my mom was a prescription drug addict. Like that's what she died of. She had an overdose of prescription drugs. So there was not a lot of craziness. My dad had a job. Things were pretty mellow. I'd never seen this weird side of and I saw him she just dropped her pants. She had no excuses.
I wouldn't
on.
recommend doing that, by the way, for the listeners.
No, please don't do that. It was terrifying.
You could eat it. I would eat it in toilet paper.
Yeah,
but if you're going to put it in your butt, you need to water it, like melt it in water and put it in. That's how you get an ass
Maybe
ulcer.
not do it in front of the 19-year-old girl that's never seen this done before, casually. Yeah. So casually in a front room, just leaned over the back of a couch, and I was like, oh, he's going to fuck her. And though he just stuck drugs in her butt, just real quick, like a real bunk, done. And she pulled up her pants and walked in the kitchen like that was nothing. And I was like, what just happened? I didn't know what they had done.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you can do it that way, get you really, really high. And I was like, I have to go home.
Yeah.
There were a lot of moments where I was like, that's the only thing that saved me is my dad remarried a year after my mom died. And I could go home to my parents' basement. And then they were like, why are all the light bulbs missing? And you gotta get your shit together.
I couldn't get it in my butt. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get it. I didn't want to get it in my butt.
Wow.
Yeah, that was weird.
No.
Yeah, if you leave meth on a spoon, it will eat the spoon. I just don't think you should put entire shards into your butt.
No.
I don't know why that is the thing that's bothering me right now.
How bad would that burn is what I thought.
No, there's a lot. It's just
a lot
burn
of questions.
Your flesh. Yeah.
And one thing I learned while listening to your stories is that you stay high for so long.
Yeah. That's
So is it
really
it's a cheap drug?
It is.
Does that make it a cheap drug because the highs last so long?
Yes.
So it's is it the
It depends on how you do it. People that smoke it, you end up smoking it every 20 minutes, so you tear through it smoking it. And the high is frustrating because it's fun and it's social. And when people vape, it's very triggering for me because it's like
it's
that.
the same smoke.
Giant billowing clouds of smoke. Yeah, when people started vaping, I was like, oh, this is making me uncomfortable.
I've never had anybody else say that.
Yeah.
But I've thought that. But there's not people you can say
the way
that
it
to.
sounds when it comes out of their mouth.
And the
like
way they do it with their mouth reminds me, we'd go to this guy's house. He's probably dead by now. His name was Chromie. And he had hooked up a vacuum that was made to vacuum keyboards on computers and reversed it and made this like electronic dope bong. And that was one of the times I was the most scared. He had a Ziploc freezer bag full of it. And we stayed at the house for like 2 days, and it was crazy. And then I was like, I have to go home. Yeah. And I quit shortly after that. But yeah, that totally triggers me. Like when I see that, that's so funny.
When I hear it, when I hear it coming out of their mouth, it sounds like meth smoke. So smoking it is not cost effective. You'll smoke it all day and you'll go through a ton of it. Shooting up, you only have to do like once a day.
Okay.
I got close one time and then I was like, I'm going to go home. Like I got close, but I was like, I'm too much of a pussy. And I have little veins and
it's so weird. I swore I would never do that, and I have terrible veins, like non-existent veins. And every surgery I ever got when I was young, they're actually bigger now than they've ever been. I don't know if that's age or what, but every surgery I'd ever done, the nurses would miss and everything else. Like I had terrible veins, but then my boyfriend at the time was shooting up, and he was shooting up with another chick, and I felt like left out.
Oh yeah.
Like, and that's how I ended up shooting up. So everyone says like I would never, and then just the scenario comes along where you're
that scenario completely makes sense to me.
You go to someone's house because a lot of people were like, anything less than shooting up is dumb, and they'll only give you dope if you shoot up. I
always was told, don't smoke it. Like,
smoking it's the dumbest.
Yeah, don't smoke it. And then I was like, okay, I won't. And they're like, it's so addictive if you smoke it. And it was summertime, and I'd done it a few times, and then somebody handed me a bong at a party and I just didn't want to feel dumb. And then I was like, oh my God, I love this.
Smoking, it's where
that was
most
my
people's
preference.
lives get ruined.
Yeah.
It's the turning point. You get weekend warriors and then they smoke it and it's over.
Yeah. We were doing hotlines. That's where you take a glass tube and you heat up the tube and then you do a line and then you blow out smoke. So you snort like a solid substance and then it blow out smoke. And it's super satisfying. There's something real satisfying about it. And yeah.
I drink a Red Bull almost every day. And
whoa, slow down.
So I feel like same, right?
Yeah.
We are kindred
I would like to
spirits here.
reiterate that Jessa and I have both been clean many years. Things
I feel
worked
like
out.
We just sold a bunch
Okay,
of
so
meth.
here's what's interesting, because when I listened to your stories, you've mentioned that you stopped pretty much, just kind of stopped.
I had such a unique.
You lost interest. Like you lost
I got
interest. Is the addictive quality the same as like a heroin or a nicotine? Is it the same type of addiction?
Nicotine's way more addictive, I think.
Yeah, for some, like, I don't know if this is different, but when I got clean, they said the odds of you ever getting clean from meth are like that it's almost impossible. That because it takes a full year to experience joy again. I didn't have any of that.
Me either. I just
had
threw it all in the
nightmares,
creek.
and there's like you ever have the dream where you wake up and you have fallen from the ceiling?
Yeah.
It's that.
I know
It's that over and over and over again for like 6 weeks, and your
My
body
legs
is
ached.
like your body is sleeping, but your brain wants to be awake, and it's just while all these things level out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just I was fortunate that I didn't. My parents thought I was dead for years, and then I resurface. They get me dentures. I go to my dad's, and I was just done. I was ready to get clean.
And you're 27 when you get your dentures.
27 when I got the bottom ones or the top ones, and then when I got clean, he got me the bottom ones. The dentures was kind of the beginning of me getting clean. I was going to steal someone's identity to get the dentures, and then I had just seen my mom for the first time in years, and ran that idea past her, and then she called my dad and was like, "She's going to go to prison."
Now you have a story where you shared with Bert Kreischer that you broke into a dental office and you you
want to talk about self-dentistry?
You got your hands on. I absolutely want to talk about self-dentistry. Amanda is dying again.
I'm so sorry.
We're losing her. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you got your hands on some amalgam.
So
you and some friends.
Some tweakers broke into a dentist's office that I think they had already broken into before. It was like abandoned or something weird.
Okay.
And
it was the apocalypse.
They had broken in, but they're in there looking for like tweaker tools and the nitrous, which is out in a thing in the back or whatever.
Yeah.
But I, at this point, so my teeth were already jacked. I had my daughter when I was 17, and I went from having no cavities my entire life to just the backs just had crumbled.
Yeah.
And then I had already gotten an implant on the front side because that tooth was ruined, and I had already had to get the middle of the two front teeth had already had to be filled in with something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I start doing meth, that middle thing falls out. And so I'm super gluing that space. So if you're up close, it looks gross. But if you're far enough away, you can't tell that I'm missing the inside of my two front teeth.
It's one of my favorite things in my job is to see what people come up with on their own.
Yeah.
Because there's some creative human beings out there who figure some stuff out that I'm actually super impressed with.
I figured some shit out.
And you said you figured out how to mix amalgam.
Yeah,
and jam it into.
Yep, I figured out how to manufacture. I was super gluing for a while, and then also I had at like 19 figured out garlic pills get rid of the abscesses faster than antibiotics.
Okay.
I'd already didn't have any back teeth, but at this point my wisdom teeth are coming in, and so they just come into where the molars used to be.
Sure.
And then, but this middle thing is gone. And then one of the side teeth went.
So the appearance is like obvious.
Yeah, so clearly my teeth are jacked already.
Right.
So I stole all of the stuff to make fillings, I guess is what it probably was.
Yeah.
But I just fashioned bridges and just connected it to the teeth that were already there. So if you were up close, I didn't get a very good polish on it. If you were up close, it didn't look very nice. But if you were like where you're sitting, it just looked like I had teeth.
Yeah.
But then every time one of those would erode or get loose, it would take a lot of real teeth with it. And so I kept having to get more and more aggressive. So I think I probably sped up the process of losing my teeth by making these homemade bridges.
Yeah.
I did that for like a year, but at the same time, like the teeth are still dying. So every single tooth abscessed. I had exposed nerves with a bunch of them, and I had just lanced my gums almost permanently lanced my gums and was just so many garlic pills to keep all of that at bay. I did not get any medical attention the entire time they were all dying. I had learned
Would you stumble into a dental office from time to time and just say, hey, pull this out?
Nope. I would
you
pull
just
them
live
out
with
myself.
You just do it.
Mm-hmm. So once the exposed nerve would happen, I would get really high.
How big were your balls, and how did you fit them in your panties?
This is why I can have babies at home.
Yeah.
So I learned that if I focus on the pain, because tooth pain's the worst. If I focus on the pain, I could take it and I could move it to a different category of reason in my brain. And if I could just move it to where sex is, then it would be okay. Like the alarms would stop going off in my head, and it could just be because you can like withstand a lot of pain in sex.
Calm your body.
And so if I could just get into kind of almost this meditative state and move it over to where sex was, I would experience the pain as something different, and then I would just take tools and I would break the tooth as much as I could, and then saw it down, and then pry open the gums so that the gums would grow over it, so that the exposed nerves would stop happening.
You had all these root tips probably stuck in the bone for a while.
Yeah. Oh, when I went to the
How bad do you want to see her X-rays?
When I finally went, the oral surgeon was like, "Okay, how are you not writhing on the floor in pain right now? You have floating bone fragments, dislocated jaw, exposed nerves. This is a lot. Like, how are you functioning right now?" And I was like, "Well, I think the dislocated jaw is from my boyfriend, but." By that point, it didn't even, I had like done the thing where I moved the pain, that I just was walking around in extraordinary pain all the time and didn't even register.
But you've been compartmentalizing shit for a while. So.
Yeah.
What I've noticed, so big part of my job is dealing with drug seekers, right?
Yeah.
The drug seekers seek out a dentist. Dentists are low-hanging fruit for a lot of drug seekers.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
We're very easily accessible. We run a $19 exam and X-ray special, which is cheap to go to see a person who has a DEA. I can prescribe medicine. I have a DEA license, and I can help you out, right? And they figure out if I lie to him and tell him I'm in pain.
Yeah.
He'll give me 12 Percocets, right?
Yeah.
But I don't run into a lot of meth as the primary choice drugs. The primary choice is almost always. Narcotics.
Yeah.
Right.
They're heroin addicts that can't get heroin, or
Yeah, so they're looking for oxycodone or hydrocodone, or if they can't get oxys, they look for hydros and they come. But I've had people that I know are lying to me.
Yeah.
But they say, and it puts me in a very like the worst position. I hate being in it, because it's like, okay, this person's in pain. I think they're lying.
Yeah.
But they're telling me they're in pain.
Right.
And they want me to pull a tooth out, and they have a state insurance, so it's covered for me to do it. There's no
like
pathology.
they're like having you pull a tooth out.
Like real teeth.
A perfect, healthy tooth. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So I had a patient, and she was, she's the first one that comes to my mind, but she came in about every 4 weeks and wanted me to pull a tooth. And I would, because she tells me I'm hurting, I'm in pain, she cries. And in my mind, I think, what if she's telling the truth?
But how can you tell by looking at the X-ray whether or not it's possible?
So I look at the X-ray and there's no pathology, meaning I can't see from the X-ray that nothing's wrong. But it's not enough, because there's lots of pathology that could exist that wouldn't be in the X-rays, and so that's not like there's not like a for sure I know you're lying.
Right.
There's never I am 100% sure that you are lying. I could never be 100%. So I help them out.
Interesting.
This is a real limited scam, though. I mean, you only got so many.
All they're getting from me is 12 Percocets.
Yeah.
12 Percocets, which is 4 a day, 3 days, you're healed. I'm not giving you any more.
That's it. And you just lost a tooth for that.
And they lost a tooth for that. And then they come in over and over for that. And they'd be like, oh, it must have been the one next door, because the one you took out doesn't hurt. They're not mad that I took out the wrong tooth.
Yeah.
Never the way. And also, what the other thing was? The way I would know is they would always be very flattering. The most flattering patients were the ones that would be like, you are the most kind, sweetest doctor I've ever met. Have you ever been told that you're really good looking? And
Brady's like, yes, I'm killing it.
How many Percocets do you want? I'm just going to leave this blank. You just go have fun.
I feel like I have
Crazy
had
kids.
teeth that were actually killing me, that had open. Every root canal I ever had ended in me losing the tooth anyway. And I would just go in there in pain way before drugs. I don't like pain medicine.
Me either.
Pain medicine, I feel like, weakens your resolve. It makes your brain weaker, so you're less likely to be able to deal with the pain. I've had surgeries as a sober person. I won't even let them give me that shit afterwards because it just it turns me into a baby.
You might be in a different class of human because with the home birthing and the chopping your own teeth out of your head.
Yeah,
you might be extraterrestrial in a way.
I am.
It's possible. We should leave that as a open-ended.
She's the representative of the lizard people.
Right.
Yes.
Because I think the average person doesn't do home births.
Yeah.
Right? Prefers the pain medicine, right?
Yeah.
Right? But anyways, I do see a lot of meth users in recovery when it's all said and done, and then the damage it leaves behind.
Yeah.
And so the youngest I've done dentures on is 17. So
wow.
I've had a couple 17-year-olds that come in, and it's just nothing we can do.
Yeah.
That's it.
They were gone by 24. They were gone really quick into meth addiction, and then I just didn't have teeth for a long time.
Yeah.
I was probably about 23 when I broke into the dentist's office, and then 24 by the time there was nothing left to glue them to. I just had that one implant for a long time. Just the implant held out. It was so funny looking. Then I lost the cap of the implant. It was just the rod, and then the rod finally came out. Weird things about my teeth falling out. I remember standing in the living room. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't eating anything. I wasn't doing meth that second. And my tooth just made the noise that when an ice cube gets water on it and it does that squealing pop thing.
Yo.
And a piece just fell out.
Yeah.
I was just standing there going, and the piece fell out.
Oh my
it's like a cartoon.
And then I remember the ones in the back, which I'm sure this was just infection, but I remember them bubbling. They would bubble in the back. Which I'm sure was
little
just
abscesses.
like me. I'm lucky my brain didn't get.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know how. My mom had really jacked up, really bad, super bad overbite. She was super self-conscious of her teeth. So my dad had really straight teeth. So I guess, good dental. My teeth never got messed up from doing drugs.
There's genetics.
Yeah.
So genetics is a factor that is kind of the wild card, right? Like,
I mean, they weren't perfect by any means.
There are people who come to my office and I haven't seen a dentist in 25 years.
My husband's never had a cavity.
And there's nothing wrong.
Yep.
And I say, well, see you in 25 again, because I don't know why, you don't need me.
Yeah.
Obviously, whatever you got going on is working well for you. It's a small percentage.
Small,
it's a super small percentage. So,
is it true that it's the bacteria you get from your parents' mouth when you're a small kid? I read that recently, that because I was told I had small, soft teeth. This is my whole family is told they have soft teeth. And then I read that soft teeth isn't even a thing, and that is the bacteria you get from your parents sucking on your pacifier and handing it back to you or whatever that determines what the bacteria in your mouth is going to be. And I feel like I read this on a dentist website recently.
So I don't tell this to patients because I get patients that come to me all the time and say, I have soft teeth.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing.
Yeah.
There's no science to back that up.
Yeah.
Enamel is enamel. It's like saying I have I guess some people have bone density differences, right? But there's nothing that we can measure with any kind of significance with soft enamel.
Yeah.
But you could have a genetic predisposition to it's like the flora and fauna of your mouth, right?
Yeah.
And then so bacteria produce acid. So here's what happens. You eat sugar. We say don't eat sugar. Sugar's bad for your teeth, right?
Yeah.
Well, sugar doesn't actually do anything to your teeth.
Feeds the bacteria.
Bacteria eat sugar and they excrete acid.
Okay.
So bacteria is just shitting acid all over your teeth.
Gross.
So that's literally what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, it just rips your teeth up. So that's the causation of cavities.
Yeah.
What was weird is after Brady did my first two back teeth, if you want to know how Brady and I met, listen to the Noriko Ott episode. But we had become friends by the time that he decided to do my front teeth. But I had never had a friend, somebody that I'd built a relationship with, do something medical on me. So it was weird when he went from Dr. Smith, the guy that I met that did my back teeth, to Brady is going to grind down my front teeth and put things on top of them. And there was a difference there. He's a great dentist, but still at first I was like, I'm into your house. Like, I don't want to, you don't want to know want to go to your doctor's house. You just want to imagine they're like, they live in doctor land.
Yeah.
They're superhuman.
So Jess, if we do this, you just got to understand, we might get weird. And, I'm okay with it. If you are.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty, I adapt pretty well. Was it hard to talk when you got,
Not when I got the caps, but, so he wanted to, numb me up before. So I got these temporary ones. It's all one piece and it was like glued on. So he grinds all my teeth down. For our listeners, he did all my front teeth because I knocked the tips of them off at the gym and had them rebuilt a few times. So he grinds down all my teeth and then he puts his big, like, I mean, it looked okay from a distance.
It's a temporary crown.
It's situation. A temporary, but it would dry out and look weird in the sun. And I'd be like, let's wet this back up again. It's not shiny when it's dry. Like it looked like I had chiclets in my mouth.
It's probably the same stuff that you ripped off from the dental office.
Yeah.
It's probably the same stuff.
Shit dries out.
It's like an in-office use type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's not
like a table that hadn't been ground, like sanded down hard enough.
Yeah.
And but they were really straight. So then he's like, all right, you're gonna come in, we're gonna take this off, we're gonna put all the individual teeth on, and then the little hygienist chick, she just like takes them off, but he didn't have a chance to numb me up yet. And so he puts the things in under my top lip to like numb me before he shanks me with the with the needle, and it hits my shaved down teeth and it hurts bad. Right as he's like, sometimes the sugar and the numbing stuff, and I was like, fucking pulled it out.
It's flavored, like you have like bubblegum flavored, mint flavored, and the flavoring when you have the enamel stripped off the teeth. So when you do crowns or veneers, you're stripping enamel off the teeth.
Right.
Yeah.
You're replacing that with porcelain or some kind of ceramic.
And it hurt. So the point where we were now friends doing something on each other versus him being the doctor, he's like, this is going to hurt. And he just gave me the numbing shot. Just like, here we are. It's going to hurt. And then it was fine. Yeah. But yeah, it was a bonding moment for you and I. You were like, buck up.
I'm glad we got through it.
It was good. I love my teeth.
That's
my
beautiful.
teeth are...
Yeah.
Those are very nice.
Thanks.
We have a quiz for you.
Yeah. And then we're going long, you guys. Hope you're still listening.
Yeah.
Randall's starving to death.
Randall, you can snack on any of this stuff. It's 57. I don't know why the one's always
I thought it was 2 hours too. Okay, so we're good. I thought it was an hour and 57.
I very rarely do a podcast that doesn't end up being 2 hours. When I'm on other people's podcasts, they're always like, oh, it's
chat.
information.